Welcome to Yogaxpress, the mobile stretch clinic that takes yoga to the people. Today we have our two regular and wonderful participants, Judy Jacob to my left and Amy Kitchener to my extreme right, and we're all going to join our really delightful guest expert and yoga teacher. He's a very popular teacher at Ishta Yoga and Yoga Works in New York City, Douglas Stewart.
Thank you, buddy.
We've had Douglas address our viewers before. In fact, Douglas was with us in the earliest part of these episodes. I believe in episode number 1 for sure, and a few others in the early part of these episodes. And now we have Douglas back again. Douglas, thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
We have had so many people ask us questions about you as a person. We couldn't resist having a kind of a mini interview. We have, in fact, between Judy, Amy, and myself, we have a lot of questions. So we've put together a few questions. And maybe in between our stretches, you can address some of them. And if there's anything that you don't want to talk about, that's fine. Let us know. Douglas, I particularly was very curious to know what inspired you to come up with the innovative concept of practicing yoga in Times Square. I thought that was just fantastic. How did you think of that?
You know, it's a curious question because at the time I was interested in, we had just finished doing another television show. I was a guest on the show called Yoga Zone a long time ago, about 8 years ago. And that show was filmed at a beach, and it was a nice setting in Jamaica. And so when I came back to the city, I was thinking, all of my people and friends of mine were asking me, well, do you have to be in that environment in order to practice yoga?
Right.
And I was like, well, no. And our city is noisy, and we're bumping into each other all the time. And so I thought, well, if you can find peace there, then why can't you find peace in the midst of all this stuff? And so one of my clients at the time, Tim Tompkins, who is the president of the Times Square Alliance, he and I came up with the idea of putting that concept in Times Square. And he needed he wanted to have something in the summer that was equivalent to what was happening in the winter, the ball drops in New Year's Eve, and so they wanted something of that nature. And so that's how it started. And over the years it has grown and developed.
I can tell you, it's been very popular. I joined the summer solstice 3 years in a row. I stood there at 5 a.m. in the morning just to be able to be one of the early ones and try and get a good spot for myself. I loved it. And you know what? I love the idea more because it's fabulous that you're giving us this chance to practice in the middle of Times Square and we learn how to zone everything out. But it's also because you're helping us. Along with Times Square Alliance, you are helping us discover that there is peace inside of us, regardless of what's outside. We take that with us everywhere, right? So it doesn't matter whether we're in Jamaica, on the beach in Chennai, where I come from, or right here in Times Square, we can still find that peace.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, and I'm sure it'll be very popular.
I'm so grateful that so many people are responding in positive ways about that. So.
I love it. Judy, did you want to ask any other questions, or... Have you? Oh, you might.
Well, I went to the solstice this year, and I had a wonderful time, and I was so pleased to see Douglas there, and I was telling him about how he conducted the solstice so wonderfully. His description of the sun. I don't do it justice, Douglas. I don't know if you want to say it, but he said that all year long, the sun is just rising, 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 until finally it's directly overhead. And for those few seconds, it's still. It's completely still. And that's the stillness that we're all seeking within us.
Wow.
Isn't it
Nice.
before it starts its descent down again. I tell you, I was there and there was not a peep. Everybody was just hanging on every single word, Douglas.
You were there too, Amy, right?
No, unfortunately, I was not able to
you
be
missed
there.
it.
So.
Well, we do it every year. It's on the summer solstice, the 21st.
Right.
And so maybe you'll come the next time.
Yes, I'm really looking forward.
Do you think you could have it in winter as well? We'll try and practice
Winter
without warm
solstice?
clothes.
Oh, yeah. Why not?
We don't have to. If we don't have to feel the sun, we don't have to hear the noise. Maybe we don't have to feel the cold. Do it in the snow.
Yeah.
Well, snow would be hard, but as long as it can clear all
But
of
it's
that.
interesting is that it's not so much that we're trying to avoid any of those things,
Right.
those distractions. It's just that we are making peace with them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's like pratyahara, withdrawing of senses.
It's
We
true.
don't feel all the distance.
And so there are the buses going by. There are the pigeons flying around. There is the buzz of the electricity in the air.
Actually,
There is
yeah.
all of that stuff. But somehow, as you said beautifully, Banu, within us, within the core of
We
us,
take it.
there is this wellness of peace that we can extend from and move into all of that stuff without being distracted
Right.
or overwhelmed by it. It becomes palatable in some way.
It was so wonderful when Douglas was leading the group. This was about 2 years ago. I remember cars were honking and they were waving to us, and people were quite happy, even in Down Dog, to wave, and they went right back into Down Dog. That was the kind of hold you had on all of us over there. Douglas, I had another question. Do you think you're back? I know you used to study ballet. Do you still practice ballet? Do you still,
No, I stopped
do you
dancing.
think your background in dance had any kind of influence on your yoga practice? Has it helped you?
Yes, it has influenced my yoga practice. I started when I was dancing. I had injuries. I had Achilles, tendonitis in my Achilles. I had tendonitis, and it moved into my knee, into my hip. And it was until I found yoga. Actually, one of our ballet masters, Jonathan Watts, who was a ballet master for New York City Ballet, became our ballet master when I was at Kansas City. And he said, in order to preserve your career, in order to preserve your body, you've got to find the system of balance, because ballet is a strain on the body. So I started practicing yoga, and I
Haven't gone back to ballet?
No, I haven't danced professionally for
But
about
it's clear to see that you have some kind of a dance background, because Eloisa would be very, very vocal about this. You remember Eloisa used to be in one of her earlier programs, and she kept saying, you have such a sculpted body, and I agree. I think with all your background in dance, you have that grace, and the way you carry yourself, even the way you speak, just hypnotizes us. And very frankly, that's why we are here today. We really cannot let you go till you give us at least one full sequence. Maybe we'll start with a morning sequence,
Okay.
and maybe tomorrow we could do an evening one.
That sounds
I have
great.
one more question. Or how shall we do? Is it okay to have an interruption in our morning
Oh,
sequence?
sure.
Yeah? Okay, maybe we can stretch a little bit, and then we have a few more questions
Okay.
for you, because I know people out there want to know a lot of things about you, and I don't think they're anything related to yoga per se. I think they want to know you,
Oh,
the
okay.
person.
All right.
So-
Well.
Lead us.
Well, we're talking about the morning, and when you wake up in the morning, there's the synovial fluid, or the fluid through the joints, is reluctant to move. It's that viscous kind of fluid that flows through the joints. And so when you get up in the morning, there is that stiffness that's through the spine and through the hip joints and through the knees and all that. So in order to get that moving, in order to get the day going, in order to get breath and life and spirit flowing through you before you get out into the world, it's a wonderful thing to have a yoga practice. Sometimes the first thing that you might be able to do in the morning is to just come down out of your bed, or to come onto hands and knees You're stable against the ground. It's early on. I don't know what time most people get up. If you're like me, it's not until 12 o'clock. That's what I call morning. But if you're not like me, maybe 8, 7, 8 in the morning, this might be something that you'll consider, just starting like this. I think that twists are great preparations for deeper back bends and deeper forward bends. So you may want to start by threading your right hand underneath your left hand, so that your right shoulder comes down onto the ground. That's it. And then, looking to your left, you can slide your left hand forward away from your pelvis. That's it. And aim both of your sit bones back to the wall behind. And over the course of the next few breaths, you're really curious to see if it's possible to just begin to rotate deeper and deeper to your left, so that eventually your heart is relating to the ceiling. And then see if you can find wonderful, supportive breaths in this pose. It's a challenge because your diaphragm is compromised. It's not able to move up and down as much as it needs to, but it's okay. It's getting stronger. The twists are great because they're integrating the right and left side of your body. Great for enhancing efficient elimination and digestion. Come on to hands and knees, and we'll do the other side. Thread your left hand underneath your left shoulder, so that your left shoulder comes down on the ground, and then you can look to your right and slide your right hand forward. There you go. And you're curious about the left shoulder as it drops down, and the right shoulder as it opens up, and your breath flows here.
That is the hard part.
It is the hard part. And you feel yourself getting warmer? The twists are actually warming up the body, so that synovial fluid that was a little bit reluctant, was more like gel at the beginning of the morning, now starts to move. Okay, release that pose now. Coming on to hands and knees, that twist.
Ooh, that should wake me.
Doesn't that feel good? Now here's a deeper stretch. Now that the body or the spine is twisted enough, leave your pelvis right over your knees, but walk your hands forward so that your fingers reach way forward and your forehead comes to rest down on the ground. That's it. Your fingers are extended so far forward that your elbows have drifted up away from the mat. Your pelvis is over your knees. So notice that most of you are sitting back on your heels. Come up so that your pelvis is, if you're able to. And that way you'll get a nice stretch. We call this puppy dog. And now you're able to let your breath flow.
I like that. Puppy dog.
You're able to feel how your breath now can flow through your upper body. The lungs are getting a chance to aerate. And because of the twist, the spine is perfectly prepared to take this back bend. You're completely supported by the ground. You're fine, Amy. Leave your pelvis right there. I'm just giving some resistance. Now see if you can walk your hands forward a little bit more. There you go. Do you feel that stretch in the shoulders?
Yes.
Come on to hands and knees, everyone. Now that was your forehead that was on the ground. That puts some blood right towards the pineal gland. Here's one that will take blood right towards the very top of your head, where it comes right down on the ground. Your hands are right to the outside of your knees, and you can let your spine round. Your shoulders drawn away from your ears.
Do we curl our toes?
I like to keep my toes curled under.
Okay.
Yep. But if you're more comfortable with the tops of your feet on the ground, that's fine.
No, I like
You want to find, Judy, you want to see if you can find some stretch in your low back. So you'll want to round up a little bit. There you go. That's it. Now add your breath. If you're daring, you may want to reach to your heels with your fingers. That's it. And then let the tops of your feet come down onto the ground, all 10 toenails. And then see if you can take your navel higher towards the ceiling. Yay! Wonderful. We call this rabbit. Now, come on to hands and knees. And we'll put it all together with upward cat as your heart and eyes and sit bones draw upward, breathing in. And when you're breathing out, let your navel float up towards the ceiling again, looking toward your navel, round your spine. Take 3 rounds. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Wonderful. Sit back on your heels.
Wow. This has already cleared my head so much. I was thinking of these millions of questions to ask you. Actually, I'm curious. Would you call yourself a cat person or a dog person? Talking about all these animal postures.
Right. Rabbit, cat, crow, horse, dog. I would say I'm more of a dog person.
Why is that? How do you associate?
You know what? I think that dogs are just so loyal and cats are too, of course, but dogs for me they seem to have more personality somehow. I have friends that have cats and their cats have personalities too, but for some reason I'm drawn to dogs.
Dogs have personality, cats have attitude.
There you go. You said it, I didn't.
I have friends who have cats as well, but I know what you mean, because cats will come home when they have to eat and then they're all over the place, but dogs will stay with you. That's true. I was just curious because we talk about the cat posture and we talk about the downward dog, so I couldn't resist. Amy, did you have any questions to ask Douglas at this point?
The only question I really have right now is, which school did you go to learn yoga?
Wow.
What my training? I trained at the time it was called Yoga Zone, and it was founded by my teacher Alan Finger, who is now the founder of the Ishta Center. I started training, teaching yoga back in 2000, and the Ishta system. And Ishta is integrated science of Hatha, Tantra, Ayurveda. It's a compilation of several forms. My teacher says that he sort of took the best of all of those forms. We are very curious about the Ayurvedic system and how the different doshas correspond to a physical practice or even to meditation. We're curious about the alignment of the body, the physical alignment, and making sure that the body is holding its integrity so that you're not injuring yourself. And so that's what that system is comprised of, and that's what I teach. And it has developed over the years since I've been teaching it now for almost 10 years, I think. So.
Douglas, I've always been inspired by the way you speak, so I did have one more question before we do a few more stretches. I just have to get it out of my system. The way you speak, is this the way you always speak, or is it something that sort of comes when you are in your yoga moment? Is there a non-yoga moment for you? Do you go crazy outside of the yoga environment?
I do go crazy.
You do?
Of course I go crazy. But you know what I think? I think of language as the same as the poses. And I think that when we yoga practitioners or teachers are putting together postures, that we're also guiding with images and trying to find the clearest and the most direct language in order to bring about the constellation or the asana or the pose. So they are not separate to me.
Right, so that is you.
It is me.
Even outside of the yoga.
Yes, I'm wanting to get the clearest expression with the most efficient manner.
Right.
With the most ease.
Well, you're doing a great job here. We'd love to see you outside of this.
But sometimes it's like this, you know.
That is
do
not
that
the
again, you know, and there's no other words for it.
That's
so.
not the Douglas lingo. What, do you occasionally go out for a pint of wellness somewhere?
Oh yeah, I mean,
You do?
oh,
Okay.
you know,
Well,
and
a pint of wellness, go to the
you
bar.
know, like alcohol and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I find that yoga is a way to enhance our living. It is not for me, and for me anyway, it is a way to me to extend and enhance all aspects of my life. So when I'm with dinner with friends, I'll have wine or and go to a party. And
Everything in moderation.
Everything.
You know where your limits
we're here in this plane. We
Right.
you know, the tantrics believe that tantrikas feel that everything is divine. You know, everything is divine. Everything is here for us to utilize and to explore and to experience the divine expression through that aspect.
Right.
So
So nicely put. Everything is divine. I like that. So we shouldn't feel guilty once in a while. We want to taste some fish or meat and say, oh, that's not yogic, that's not sattvic, so I'm not going to eat it. Or if we have some wine or something, we shouldn't really let guilt eat us, right?
well, you know, I mean, it's depending on how you've
We
put
receive.
your life together.
Right.
Some person may say that's not good for them, and they've gone into that belief system, and so to go contrary to that would cause them harm.
Stress. Okay.
So then they shouldn't do that. But the way I've set up my life, I'm thinking that everything is divine.
I like that. I think I'm going to approach it next time. I'm tempted to go out there, have some wine or some Baileys or whatever. Hey, there's divinity in everything. Why not? But do you think there was any one person? What has influenced your thinking process? Is there a person, an individual who's inspired you to think this way, or is it the way you are,
It's
the way you live?
it's through the practice of yoga that I have understood these concepts where through my own practice and through studying with my teachers and finding out through my own exploration what life is and why we're here and what is the purpose of it. And yoga to me is integration. And I'm feeling that on this little worn piece of rubber,
well
the
worn, yeah.
integration of all of my physical parts, but then it doesn't stop there. It's an integration of the subtle aspects, which is my mind and breath. Then it's an aspect of integrating those qualities into causal, or they sort of flow towards that, and I have a broader understanding. But it doesn't stop there. It's community and family.
So everything and everyone around you,
Yes,
allow it to.
we are integrating nature and universe, and so there's this amazing web, and so I'm not separate from any of that, and that's how I live my life. I feel that if I'm with you, I'm with you, and if I'm not, then we are together in some way, but sharing a piece of bread or sharing some information or sharing a glass of wine or a glass of tea or something is a way, or sharing a concern
experience.
or an experience is our way of being human.
Right.
We are not separate from one another.
Our way of acknowledging our divinity. I love that. I love the way you put that forward. Before we really go into our few extra stretches for the morning sequence, if anyone wants a copy of Yoga Secrets, email me, banu.suresh@gmail.com. The box contains 10 ailment-specific sequence cards, and we will also send you a copy of our postcard, a fridge magnet, and a business card, so there's no escape, no excuse not to stretch. Douglas, we would love to finish the stretches that you got us started
Okay.
into. So
You
we're
want us to
ready.
do one more?
Yeah.
Or a few more?
A few more, absolutely. We have 5 minutes.
Okay, leaning back, this is a great 5-minute stretch. Leaning back, you're sitting on your heels if you're able to at this early in the morning. This is an early morning class, and
Oh,
you're
that's
leaning
right.
back on your hands,
Okay.
but separate your knees about hip width apart. And now, lift your sit bones up away from your heels so that your heart reaches right up towards the ceiling, and your nose reaches towards the ceiling. And you're able to now to breathe in and out as fully as possible. Just opening up.
Do we lift our pelvis way up?
Yes, you can draw your sit bones up as much as you can without struggle. Let your breath move. And then ease down to sitting. Wonderful. Bring your legs together, thigh bones touching, and fold over your legs in child's pose. And then round up to sitting. You can feel each vertebra stacking one on top of the other. And if you want to just dedicate your day to some person or to some situation, you can bring your hands into this relationship, one palm pressed against the other, symbol of balance and harmony, right and left, in harmony with one another, all opposites united.
Yeah, I'm trying.
You can just offer. And that might be a way to start your morning.
Wow. I'm gonna.
Lovely way.
So we did about 6 stretches.
Mm-hmm.
So if we try and do this every morning, that really gets us going.
It'll get you going. It'll get the synovial fluid going. It'll
Right.
get the circulation moving
That
through
is
your
so
heart.
important. You're right. You do feel so tight,
Yes,
right?
you do. I feel stiff every time I wake up
Right,
out of bed, you know. So
Wow.
there's some poses for you that'll help you.
Yeah, that definitely is going to help us. Then we might as well. I thought Douglas wouldn't give us a chance to ask him the rest of the questions. We had a lot of questions for you, Douglas. So and I'm sure Amy and Judy are also equally curious.
Mhm.
What is your favorite posture and why?
Oh, my favorite.
Now we're sort of
pose.
a little bit into the yoga side of things.
Yes, we are my favorite pose. I have so many of them. Which one am I exploring right now? You know, I've just fallen in love with tripod headstand. I did it before.
Actually, we'd love to see that. Okay,
You
come
know,
on.
I've
We're
just-
not
I-
going to do it with you.
No,
We want to
no,
watch
Well,
you.
I've enjoyed
We wanna watch you.
you know, if you're in this position with your head on the ground and your forearms parallel to one another, your knees can come right on top of your elbows. And you feel yourself in this tripod where there's equal weight over your head and over your 2 hands. And now the thing is to let your spine lengthen. You want to maintain that. Your knees against your elbows if possible. And then you can send one heel up
That's asking for a bit much. I'm
and
not
then
sure.
another heel up.
It's so
Wow.
effortless.
It looks so effortless, doesn't it?
I've just been loving this pose now for about a month or so. Toes. All of the attention moving toward your head and then coming down again. And then stepping onto your toes. And then returning to child's pose. I just find